I recognize that I am a man and I am not a medical professional. So I am not going to tackle this topic by myself, but I have asked one of my really good friends, a good sister of mine who is a medical professional, to join me. So let me welcome Lady Kimberly Ward.
Hello.
What's going on, family? How you doing?
I'm great. How are you, brother?
I'm good. I'm good. Kim is weeks away from graduating as a nurse practitioner. Oh my, like it has been years. What is it, 3 years so far? Or
Well, like 2.5, but
two
yeah,
to
it's been a
almost
long
3 years?
time. Yeah,
You round where? So when is the graduation date?
April 25th.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. We back. Go. I'll continue. You
Okay,
cooking
okay.
right now. Go ahead.
And so then other spiritual implications are, when does conception happen?
Mm.
So based on everything I laid out here, I think it's pretty clear conception happens when the sperm and egg unite. Before then, they're a sperm and egg. They're part of your cells. They have to unite to create the embryo.
Hmm.
And once they get to a certain point, since we're talking about IVF, then they have to be implanted into a uterus in order to continue developing into what we would say is a baby today. But even back then, as I already mentioned, between weeks 2 and 8 of fertilization, that's when all the groundwork for all your organs is being developed. If that process is interrupted in a significant way, that has implications in the future.
All right. So there it is. Because of uh, so conception starts at fertilization, even outside of a uterus.
Correct.
So those are all those embryos that are frozen and getting prepared. Like once it's fertilized, that's human life.
Correct. Because you have your mom, whoever the mom is, you have her DNA, and whoever the dad is, you have his DNA. That's the only way you get you and I sitting here today.
Right. Ooh. Wow. So ooh. Wow. So then yeah. So the in the article I read on CNN about this whole process, the implications of the Supreme Court's ruling had a lot of ripple effects because now it's like so when two people decide not to go through with their process, I mean
Mhm.
that's a and they're already at that stage, and I know there's some consents, but aside from the consents, this is a human life. So we need to do everything in our power to ensure that that human life survives. Oh wow.
So, oh,
Go ahead.
oh yeah, I just want to mention. So this is not an easy process, right?
Mm.
So as a believer, you cannot, and you should not enter this realm without being prayed up, maybe talking to
Sure.
your pastor or trusted in a multitude of counselors is safety. Like this is not something to be like, okay. And I'm not saying people do that, but this is like something spiritually heavy, right? This is a spiritual
I
warfare
feel heavy right now.
on all sides, right?
Yes.
Based on all the things I mentioned throughout the whole process. Because you're doing everything in your power, right, to make this successful. And so we're taking it into our hands. And I'm not here to say that believers should or should not do that. I think that's a conversation between you and God, like really assessing the motivation of why you're doing this, right?
Mm.
And really heavily considering that. And like I said, there's safety in a multitude of counselors, and I know people personally have gone through this process. And I haven't done IVF, but I have benefited, for instance, from the technology that has come out of this. When I had a miscarriage with our first pregnancy, and so going back to when I say a clump of cells, I used to believe that too until I held my 7-week old a baby boy in my hands after miscarrying him. And it was not a clump of cells. I could see where
Mm,
his eyes were going to be. I could see his placenta. That was not a clump of cells.
mm,
And so God really like ministered to me in that moment. And then fast forward, when I was pregnant the next time, I was having some of the same symptoms. And thankfully, um I was able to utilize, some of the technology that is utilized to prepare the woman's body and things like that. It's something called progesterone, because progesterone rules pretty much everything in your pregnancy, keeping your placenta viable, keeping the pregnancy going, etc. And I had low progesterone, and my husband would have to give me injections once a week so that our child, I wouldn't continue to have like miscarrying symptoms. And then it came to a point where they said you could continue this, but we prayed about it and we just felt like God was just asking us not to do that, and so we did it. And you see our children here today. But we're not all gonna have the same story, so I'm not saying this is like a light situation. I ministered to many women on a Sunday because cycles happen sometimes on the weekend, and I'd be like, man, I'm missing church. But God met me there, and I prayed for many women going through this process and their families. This is not easy. Those women, trust me, when they were told that the baby did not implant, they had a miscarriage, it was not like, oh, well, they took an emotional toll on them because that was their baby and they were ready to receive that baby.
mm,
um so it's not a something to be taken lightly. Not saying that anybody would if they're going through that process, but as believers it's something to take it above a notch. Like, what are the spiritual implications? So I'm glad you're bringing that up today.
mm. Well, thank you for sharing your personal experience. That's not an easy thing to go through, and it's not an easy thing to share as well. So I'm sure that will bless a lot of people, hearing that you went through that and persevered. You and your husband, and yes, Yoli and Ezel are thriving and running up trees and writing books and singing
Yep.
on stage and all these things. But